All right, HOS-245 students, we are back with a review of Chapter 6, Consumer Markets and Buying Behavior. So when we look at this chapter and we think about these three bullet points here for points of emphasis, what we really want to see is how the model for buyer behavior works. We also want to see the major characteristics that affect our consumers' behavior, okay, because that's how we're going to impact them, the cultural, social, personal, and psychological factors that influence our consumer, and then be able to explain and understand the decision process and the need that our consumers have and how really smart our customer is. So when we look at that, we kind of start off with the model of the behavior there. And if you turn to page 155, figure 6-1, it gives you that actual illustrated model, the marketing stimuli and other stimuli that go into it, the buyer's black box, and then the buyer's response. So when we look at it as business owners or owner operator, general manager, executive chef, whatever it might be, whatever role we go into, when we're marketing our business or we're part of the marketing process, right, we are offering the stimuli to our customer, to our consumer. Okay, so again, if we look at that figure there, we do that through our product, price, place, promotion, right? And then they are stimulated other ways too. Both cultural, political, economic, and technological factors go into stimulating a buyer to make a decision. Okay. We also know that the end response is monitored, or we measure those results through what the buyer does. So the buyer's choice in product, brand, timing, the amount of which they purchase, right? We realize that the start is us affecting them or trying to affect them, and then the end is us measuring the results and the effectiveness of what we've done. What happens in the middle is what we have to determine, and a lot of times it's hard to see this as a big need, because we just assume, all right, the results are in, they did or did not purchase this product or stay in this hotel or go for this special in the restaurant tonight. So we just scrap it all together, not looking back to recreate the process and see what we could have done different to stimulate the buyer to meet those needs. So again, we look at that, and really that middle box, that buyer's black box, is what we're looking for throughout this chapter, is understanding the behavior of our consumer. So again, if we look over, really that middle part lets us know that the best companies, or the company that really puts the most time and effort and emphasis on understanding what goes into their mind to produce that result, that needed result, really gives us that advantage over our competitors, right? So being able to understand how our consumers respond to those different things, the product, the price, the place, and promotion, right? How they respond to those things equaling that result is how we really set ourselves apart. And again, the cultural side of it, definition-wise, the most basic determinant of what a person or their wants and behaviors, right? It's the basic values or perceptions that a person learns continuously, right? That subculture is more of subculture, groups of people with shared values. Social classes affect buying behavior as well. Those are just some of the characteristics, the personal characteristics that affect their behavior. There are also social factors that go into it, so cultural factors there, and then social factors. Some of those social factors are groups of people, how they affect and influence our behavior. That kind of falls in line with what we see so often now with online social media networks, and how that's done. We also were affected by word of mouth. In our discussion board post, looking at negative reviews from hotels and restaurants, so many people said, hey, I do review some of these. If it's a new restaurant, I'll see if there's any negative reviews on it here lately so I can understand if, what's going on. But I typically follow word of mouth. So we think of word of mouth as being one of still, in the technological age we're in, and the amount of time we spend online, we still use word of mouth and take that more seriously than we do the online reviews. Family, right? Family members have a strong influence on buying behavior. So think about this: if you've got a family at home, or were at one point a small kid, right, which we all were. Think about the behavior that you have riding down the road and a kid says they're hungry. We're thinking ease of access, right? So we go back to our McDonald's example, right? McDonald's seems to rule the world when it comes to our marketing examples in the class, right? Our family members are affecting that decision. We want to go in, get the kids a Happy Meal or whatever it might be. Again, it's ease of access, cheap, or typically cheaper. But that's also why McDonald's does a good job of marketing to kids. You'll see McDonald's commercials, not only across the TV, but especially on things like Nickelodeon or Disney or something like that, right? Plus, you always see the kids, you don't see them quite as much anymore, but all of the mascot slash figures that you would see with McDonald's, all the games that you can play with McDonald's, and as of right now, some of the things that you get with the Happy Meal, the toys, the buckets, things like that. And then roles and status also play into those societal factors that affect our decision, right? So if we think we are, or we present that we are, then we must make a decision based on that, right? So, the decision that I'm making reflects, my general esteem given the society, right? I might make a decision based on what I feel like my status is. It may be the difference between a Honda and a Mercedes, okay? And then personal factors, obviously things that affect our decision: age, occupation, our economic situation can really play a big part in that, right? What we can afford and what we can't. Our lifestyle, right? That pattern of acting and interacting in the world, and being able to understand what's valuable to me, and my behavior then is affected that way. So we look at all those things, and those are, really what shapes our buying behavior, okay, and what leads us to certain products and price points. The next thing we look at is the decision process, right? So think about this as we go through it in a decision that you've made lately. So we start with problem recognition. So again, that's just the first point, but it's not really a problem that we're looking for. It could be the need. Okay, so the problem is we need something, right? So then we move to an information search, which again kind of falls back to maybe online reviews, or maybe it's not just necessarily a customer review through a TripAdvisor or something like that, but it could be a review through a food website or a magazine article or Facebook marketing, right? So we do our information that way, looking for a certain classification of information, right? Then we evaluate all of the alternatives that we could possibly do. So we may play one thing off of another to see if we can get again, what our behaviors suggest is we may look for a different price point, more ease of access, something like that, and then obviously our decision. So in the evaluation stage, we put all those, brands, products, services, whatever it might be, we kind of rank those, and then we go with whatever is our most preferred in that instance. What companies like to have is you come back. Okay, so we talked about this in the beginning, the overall lifetime value of a customer, right? So most marketing plans are meant to get you on board with that one thing, but then keep you there as a valued customer, as a loyal customer, right? So when we look at that, think about this example. I was thinking about this as I was going over the notes for this chapter, right? Let's think we're going out with a group for dinner, and let's say we've got 8 people. Right? So the recognition here is that I need to start the process of buying or choosing a restaurant, right? Based on the need that we want this social and satisfaction of going out to dinner with 8 people. Okay, So as we know, we want this to be a little bit nicer of a dinner. Maybe I'm looking for places that take reservations. So then I'm looking at online reviews. I'm looking at word of mouth, right? Hey, have y'all been anywhere else downtown here lately? What's good? And let's say I settle on XYZ restaurant. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and say, all right, well, here's one option, but let's say this doesn't work out. Let's go ahead and list out a couple more. So if you're like me, you hate group text, but here you found yourself in one. So you send out, all right, here's option A, B, and C. And then everyone starts to chime in, right? So we're evaluating those alternatives, seeing what might be the best for the group. But again, I'm the planner. I'm working out what it is. The ultimate buying decision is mine. Okay, so we're determining all those things. Now we're at the point where we have, said, all right, we're going with this one. So now I've ranked everything. We've got it in classifications A, B, C, and we've settled on XYZ restaurant, and our 8 go there. Okay, so then we finish up with the post-purchase behavior. So after everything's gone, was I satisfied? Was I not satisfied? Am I going to come back, right? Will I engage in that action of being a loyal customer and being interested in this, right? Will I continue to come back and work and give my business to this restaurant? Okay, so that's kind of what we look at with the buying process, and that's really chapter 6 is kind of a small chapter, but one thing kind of wanted to talk about. One of the discussion questions says, explain why marketers study buyer behavior and discuss characteristics affecting consumer behavior. Which characteristics do you think have the greatest impact on the decision to select a restaurant to celebrate a special occasion, such as a birthday or anniversary? Okay, so that's discussion question number 1. I wanted to change it up a little bit and say, what do you think about it in terms of selecting a venue for, let's say, a wedding, right? It might involve research into saying, oh, what wedding venues are available here in Greenville. But guess what? We're also going to use word of mouth, family and friends, right? We're going to use maybe a event planner to help us decide that information. So when we think about what characteristics do you think have the greatest impact, it can vary by industry, right? So hotel versus restaurant versus venue, right? All of those kinds of things. So that's kind of what we look at there. And again, we talked about influences, what can influence that. We talked about how families influence, how a child, might say they want McDonald's, and as a family, we feel like that's easy, and we just go kind of that way. Another question there that we have at the end of this chapter when we talk about consumer buying behavior is consumer perception, right? We've always heard the term perception is reality. Well, at the end of the day, the perception is how and why someone picks a certain business, product, or service, right? So many factors can go in that. Again, is the brand itself, right? Is it going to pull a lot of weight? Is it the Hilton or the Marriott? Is it a chain restaurant that we're familiar with the brand? Or is it a new upstart, a boutique hotel like Hotel Domestique or the Hotel Trundle in Columbia, right? Is it one of those? We're using word of mouth. We're looking up those reviews. And then obviously our personal past experience is what ultimately brings perception reality. So if we have a great time, then we're more likely to want to do that again. If we don't have a great time and we don't feel value was created for whatever reason, then typically we're not going to go through that process again. So again, the point of this chapter is, when reading through it, is to understand buying behavior and the decision-making process, and understand how to market to those things specifically. And part of that, again, goes back to figure 6.1. Okay, and I believe that was page 155, right? So we provide the marketing stimuli. We know what the response is going to be. We have to understand how everything that we do affects buyer's decision. Okay? So that's a review of chapter 6. As always, if you have any questions, let me know.